And welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Mysteries from Beyond the Other Dominion. I'm your host, Dr. Franklin Ruehl, and today we're going to investigate the fabled Min Min light of Australia, tell you about a brand new discovery proving absolutely that we're not alone in the universe, and tell you how we came this close, yes, this close, to becoming a German-speaking nation. And we'll also be speaking with our very special guest today, Louis Wendruck, one of the most prominent men in the state. He is president of the Southern California Dark Shadows Fan Club, and will be revealing some of the secrets of that famous, very popular series. Now, I'd like to start you off with a trivia question. Let me extricate it from its paper prison here. Mysteries from Beyond the Other Dominion for the latest in these intriguing subjects. Now, in just a few seconds, we'll be back with our very special guest, Louis Wendruck from the Dark Shadows Fan Club of Southern California. We'll be back in, give us 5 or 6 milliseconds. Okay, we're back with our very special guest today, Louis Wendruck, president of the Dark Shadows Fan Club. And may I bid you welcome to the show, Louis.
Thank you for inviting me, Dr. Ruehl.
Well, we're glad to have you. And may I ask you, with regard to the Dark Shadows Fan Club, when did that commence existence?
The Dark Shadows Fan Club started exactly a year ago today.
Is that right?
Yes.
How about that? How many members do you have?
We have over 800 people on our mailing list, and it's been a very successful fan club for the TV show Dark Shadows, which hasn't shown on the air for 20 years since its original run, but now it's back in syndication.
Okay, I watch it every night on a local station. Actually, it's from Anaheim, but I pick it up on my cable. And I assume that there are 3 types of Dark Shadows fans. Those who loved it when it was originally on and want to see it again. Those like myself who were going to school and once in a while caught an episode and wished he could have seen more. And then thirdly, those who never saw it before and are fascinated by it. Which category do you fit into?
I guess I fit into all 3 a little bit.
Well, did you ever see it when it was on originally?
Yes, I did.
Were you a real Dark Shadows fan then?
Yes, I was 10 years old at the time, and I used to run home after school to catch the show.
Okay. Now, you have a newsletter that comes out, is that quarterly?
Yes.
And it's a very fine newsletter, giving them updates on different events concerning Dark Shadows and an update of the forthcoming episodes on the quarter, little errors in the shows to look for, and little plot developments. Now, may I ask you this? Do you have anything else that you give your members, like a T-shirt? I think I see one over there. Would you like to hold that up?
This is a T-shirt we have for our members, and it's available. It's full-color photograph for the Dark Shadows Fan Club.
That's a very beautiful photograph. Let me take a look at that. That shows most of the cast members, including Barnabas Collins, who was, of course, portrayed by Jonathan Frid, and just about all of the other principals in that cast. Now, there is Barnabas Collins, and it's a very interesting. Let me show you this. Now, this is Barnabas Collins, the vampire. Tell us about the history of the show. The first 6 months of this Gothic soap opera that was on in the afternoons did not feature a vampire, did it?
No, it did not.
And it was doing poorly in the ratings, was it not?
Right.
And do you know which writer came up with the brilliant idea to introduce a vampire?
Well, it was Dan Curtis's idea himself.
He was the executive producer
of the show. And Dark Shadows for the first year was basically your normal soap opera, but they decided to introduce the supernatural. And I have a couple of guides here. One, which is the one on the far right,
in the front of our desk
is
here.
Dark Shadows the first year, which covers the first year of the show before Barnabas came. The middle one is a picture for the fan club, and the one to the far left there is a picture for Dark Shadows, all the episodes in syndication, which has a description of them. And there's several other characters which might be familiar to the viewers on the show, if I could show you them for a second.
Now, may I ask you, it began in 1966.
Right.
Was it a full year before Barnabas was introduced?
Yes.
A full year?
Yes.
And they were floundering in the ratings?
Right.
And when they introduced the vampire, they really didn't expect him to be a sustaining character. He's just going to be perhaps there temporarily to generate some interest.
He was only scheduled to be on the show for 2 weeks.
That's unbelievable.
But the ratings skyrocketed, so Dan Curtis had him on, Jonathan Frid as Barnabas, for the rest of the show. until the last year where he actually played a different character, Bramwell.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Now, why did he think we'd only have him for 2 weeks? Didn't he realize that was a great idea?
I guess not, but Supernatural really took off in the 60s.
And they had everything in that. I don't know if I've reviewed it before, but we've had witches, werewolves, we've had the use of the I Ching to go back into time, we've had time travel by different individuals, we've even had a visit down to hell with the devil, and just about anything you could imagine. I think in the future, we haven't seen these episodes out here, but there's even some sort of a blob-like creature and a door that's discovered that takes you back into time, a sort of a time portal.
A parallel time.
One of the leading characters, David Selby, I think you have a photo of him, not only as a werewolf, but also a ghoul.
Right.
So anything you can think of in the realm of the supernatural or horror, they did on that show. And that's what really kept the ratings up there. Now, there are 2 movies made. One was House of Dark Shadows, followed by Night of Dark Shadows. Were they produced before or after the series had been canceled?
They were already produced about a year after the series was canceled. And House of Dark Shadows was more popular, and the second movie that came out had more to do with time travel and going back in the past. It wasn't quite following the storyline of Dark Shadows, which is Night of Dark Shadows, which you can see the poster for here.
Yes, I wanted to call attention to this excellent poster. And how much do you think that's worth? About $50? Because
Yes.
it's the only one I've seen like that.
It's a very rare collector's item.
Yes. Now, there's one thing missing in this poster. Anyone who's a Dark Shadows fan knows, and that is Jonathan Frid. Barnabas Collins the vampire was killed in the first movie, House of Dark Shadows, and he was not resurrected.
Right.
And that's interesting because so many times in the series a character appeared to have been killed or died, whether it was Tom Jennings the vampire, who apparently was killed once by Barnabas and was resurrected, or we have the Angelique the witch that was portrayed by Laura Parker. Many times they thought they'd killed her, but then she is resurrected. But for the movie, they didn't have Barnabas for the second movie, and I understand that's a sequel. He's the most popular character. Can you explain why he wasn't in Night of Dark Shadows?
I really don't know. But it was very much missed in the second movie.
Yes, because I did not like the second movie. I liked the poster, but I was very disappointed. Now, why don't you show us some of these photos you have of the characters? Let me give them. I'll hold them up while you describe what each one is.
The first one is the house Collinwood, which was always shown at the beginning of the show, Dark Shadows.
And do you know what that actually was? That was actually someone's residence, or was it a resort hotel or something?
Collinwood was a mansion in Rhode Island called Seaview Terrace, which was used for the TV show.
But the setting for Dark Shadows is supposed to be Maine.
Right.
That's amazing.
But the movie, Dark Shadows, was taking place at a different mansion in Lyndhurst, New York. So the next picture I have is a cast photo of the show in '68. And it shows Barnabas, Cassandra, Nicholas Blair, and Adam, as well as Victoria Winters in the top corner here, who was always on the show in the beginning until she actually left the show.
Yeah. Now, there was a reason she left. I assume she was playing Barnabas' love interest, who is our heroine, but she became pregnant, and she had to leave the show, and they had 2 other girls then replace her in succession, and I don't think they turned out too well, so they decided, as a result of her having to leave the show, they just write the character out of the story.
Yes.
She went back in time, actually, and lived her life in the past.
Right.
And we never saw her again.
Right.
Okay. Now, here we have another man, Nicholas Blair, and he portrayed a man who was an agent of the devil, and he was
a warlock.
A warlock. And he was always having trouble with Angelique.
Right.
Now, what was his name?
His name was Humbert Allen Estrada, the actor.
Yes, he did an excellent job. Is he still working?
Yes, he's been in many plays and other productions.
Okay.
All of the actors of Dark Shadows, most of them are still currently in acting, and you can see them on many different shows.
One is David Selby, who's been on Dallas and Washington Behind Closed Doors.
No, actually, it was Falcon Crest that he's on
Oh,
now.
Falcon Crest. Was he ever on Dallas?
No.
Oh, excuse me. I don't watch those. I only like the supernatural soap operas. But let me ask you about John Carlin. Now, he's on Cagney and Lacey.
Right.
And did he win, actually, an Emmy for his role?
Yes, he did.
So here's somebody who really ascended, despite being in something that might be considered a lowly soap opera that's devoted to horror. And here you've had some people being very successful. One of my favorite characters was Grayson Hall, who portrayed the doctor that had befriended Barnabas and tried to cure him of his vampirism, and understand she died. Is that true?
Yes.
That's a shame, because I always enjoyed her character too. And what about some of the other characters that were popular?
I'll show you some of the pictures.
Okay.
This is Lara Parker.
Laura Parker. Is that Laura, or how do you pronounce that?
Lara Parker.
Oh, I always call it Laura, but it's Lara. Let me hold that up.
And she played the witch Angelique.
Yeah.
And that's a picture of her in 1795 when they went back in time, because Dark Shadows was unique in going back in time in various segments of the show.
Well, now you brought that up, and one of the most intriguing aspects of Dark Shadows was that at one point there was a seance where Victoria Winters returned in time, and we saw how Barnabas Collins actually became a vampire.
Right.
And I thought that was a brilliant coup for them, because we never saw how a man became a vampire. Now, I want to allow some time for a unique video that you brought with us. Could you describe that video before we run it?
Sure. This video was prepared by Joe Integlia, and it's a rare record called Barnabas by the Vampire State Building, used for the music with clips of the show. And I think you'll all find it very interesting.
Okay. Please roll that tape, and we'll all sit back and enjoy it.
What was even worse, she turned it into a vampire. That was his curse. Barnabas, we must confess. We think your pearly fangs and your mustang dress. Biting people's backs is your ghoulish desire. Barnabas, your favorite the vampire doesn't drink or smoke. Not even Bloody Mary's. Yeah, he'd rather have a Coke. When the night is dark and the moon is full and there's nothing to do, be careful when you walk at night, or he'll put the bite on you. Barnabas, we must confess. We think your pearly fangs and your mustang dress. Biting people's backs is your ghoulish desire. Barnabas, your favorite vampire. Blown away to Collinsport in Maine to become the Ed Sullivan of the jugular vein. Barnabas, we must confess. We dig your pearly fangs and your mustang dress. Biting people's backs is your ghoulish desire. Barnabas, your favorite vampire. Sing my song, boys and ghouls. We dig your pearly fangs and your mustang.
Okay, we're back, and I think that was an excellent video. Thank you for bringing it, Louis. And I might point out that as we close this show that we have two views of David Selby, the real David Selby, and his more interesting character, the werewolf ghoul. Here he appears to be the ghoul. Thanks for being on our show. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
And until next time, may the force be with you. Dark Shadows Fan Club of Southern California. We'll be back in, give us 5 or 6 milliseconds. Okay, we're back with our very special guest today, Louis Wendruck, President of Dominion. I'm your host, Dr. Franklin Ruehl, and today we're going to investigate the fabled Min light of Australia, tell you about a brand new discovery proving absolutely that we're not alone in the universe, and tell you how we came this close, yes, this close, to becoming a German-speaking nation. And we'll also be speaking with our very special guest today, Louis Wendruck, one of the most prominent men in the state. He is president of the Dark Shadows Fan Club. And may I bid you welcome to the show, Louis.
Thank you for inviting me, Dr. Ruehl.
Well, we're glad to have you. And may I ask you, with regard to the Dark Shadows Fan Club, when did that commence existence?
The Dark Shadows Fan Club started exactly a year ago today.
Is that right?
Yes.
How about that? How many members do you have?
We have over 800 people on our mailing list, and it's been a very successful fan club for the TV show Dark Shadows, which has
Southern California Dark Shadows Fan Club, and we're revealing some of the secrets of that famous, very popular series. Now, I'd like to start you off with a trivia question. Let me extricate it from its paper prison here. Mysteries from beyond the other dominion for the latest in these intriguing subjects. Now, in just a few seconds, we'll be back with our very special guest, Louis Wendruck from the 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Okay, welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Mysteries from Beyond the Other